Hey everyone, me Kevin here with your stimulus check and future stimulus package update for June 25th. I got rid of that hat from this morning, so welcome back to normal Kevin with that messed up haircut. The outbreak is going to be the single biggest determinant of the next stimulus package. FDA Commissioner Scott Gottlieb states that we're likely to see more state quarantines in response to the growing case counts in many states within the country. Yesterday, we had our highest daily increases. That's June 24th. Through the entire day yesterday was the highest daily increase in case counts that we have had in the country. And Scott says that even though it looks like we're around 40,000 cases per day, we probably have around 200,000 cases per day in our country right now because only about 1 in 5 to 8 actually get tested and diagnosed. That means we could really see substantially more cases and more spread, especially as testing ramps up. This comes at the same time as Donald Trump is looking to withdraw or close down federal testing sites, put that burden onto states, despite the fact that states are complaining that they are out of money and are having to prepare to lay off more staff. Now, this means that the actual outbreak, again, might be worse than it is right now, and we might get even worse data over the next month or two. Why that's important and related to stimulus is because there are a lot of folks talking about stimulus, whether it's in the news or on YouTube, about how important the next jobs report is going to be for the next round of stimulus. People are saying, mark your calendars for next week. I respectfully and highly disagree. When you lose 23 million jobs, it's usually pretty easy to add back the first half of those. That is, the first 11 million are going to come back generally fast. But what really matters for our recovery and the economy is the second half of those job losses. And I mean, think about that for a moment. We could literally see job reports for the next few months, every month going, yay, we've added 2 million jobs. And even if we added 2 million jobs for the next 3 months, you'd still have 15 million people unemployed due to the pandemic. Heck, next month's job report could say, hey, in June, we added 6 million jobs. Yay, biggest growth ever. Well, yeah, but that's because we just lost 23 million jobs, and we'd still have 65% of the people who lost those jobs unemployed from this COVID crisis. So in my opinion, the jobs report is not the data to look at. Instead, COVID cases are exactly what we should be paying attention to, and the increasing rounds of testing that we'll be seeing, especially if states have to start taking over testing. Are they going to increase testing? Are they going to drop the ball because they don't have any money and stop testing? What happens with testing and what happens in states is going to be much more important than looking at a backwards-looking jobs report. In fact, today we had some unemployment data come in that showed that actually more people filed for unemployment than expected. 1.48 million people filed for unemployment versus 1.3 million who were expected to file for unemployment. Now, maybe that extra amount of people are the folks who are watching my YouTube videos where I suggest that if you have not yet applied for unemployment, do so because you can get retroactive pay. But you have to apply before the unemployment pay expires, which, by the way, the $600 per week of unemployment pay, at least according to the USA today, might actually end up expiring as soon as July 25th, because the way the CARES Act is written is such that you're not supposed to get any kind of unemployment pay beyond July 31st, and unemployment is usually paid on a Friday. So because of the way the calendar falls, July 25th might actually be the last day that people receive this sort of $600 boost, which does put more urgency on Congress to act and renew this unemployment, especially with how many people continue to go onto unemployment and how few jobs relative to what we lost we're actually gaining back. But always remember, all of the data that's coming out regarding jobs is backwards looking. And right now, we've got the governor of Texas suggesting that, well, while we might not shut down again, we might pause the reopening at the same time as Apple is closing 7 Houston stores because of a spike in cases, and at the same time as the governor of California is saying we might have to, quote, revert back to the previous shutdown that we had, thanks to the spiking happening. So paying attention to the outbreak is much more important, in my opinion, than paying attention to jobs data. All of this anxiety, by the way, is also creating anxiety in the stock market, which is why you have these crazy, turbulent opportunities to buy stocks on red days. Today, for example, is a green day. Now, I still encourage you to open up a Webull account, use that link down below, deposit $100 and get 2 free stocks. Somebody mentioned when they signed up, they got an offer that if they deposited like $10,000 to $25,000, they'd get anywhere between 10 to 25 bonus stocks worth up to $1,400. So I guess there are a bunch of bonus offers going around too once you're actually in. Use that link down below to join. But anyway, if you have, and this is a good rule of thumb, if you have that feeling of fear on a day like yesterday where a lot of things were red, today a lot of things are green, that's usually a good sign that you're in the right place to buy. Remember, buy on those fearful days, buy the moments of fear, and just do that consistently and hold on to the companies that you love. The federal government accidentally sent $1.4 billion of stimulus money to dead people. Yesterday, we talked about the federal government sending money to people in jail and then trying to get that money back. And now we have a new tally that $1.4 billion of stimulus checks went to folks who are no longer alive. Now, technically, that money is supposed to be returned to the IRS. It's unclear how they will enforce, let's say, family members depositing those checks into, let's say, the people who passed away, into their trust, and then redeeming that money for themselves. It's unclear what the IRS is going to do about that, but it is technically owed back to the IRS. In other news, Larry Kudlow, the director of the National Economic Council and pretty much one of Donald Trump's right-hand spokespeople, says that the odds of a strong V-shaped recovery are still there. He cites, quote, very strong new business applications and says that 80% of small businesses have already reopened and therefore we can clearly see the V. And that's his quote, see the V. This is despite Macy's cutting about 3% of their entire workforce today, about 3,900 jobs, and saying that they are going to emerge from this pandemic significantly smaller. Larry Kudlow goes on to say that he believes we're going to see a snapback in quarter 3, quarter 4, and have a great 2021, although this may be politically inspired. After all, we do have an election coming up. Now, I also wanted to clarify some things about the TRIP Act. I mentioned that yesterday as the first kind of written version of the $4,000 Explore America tax credit. The TRIP Act would actually allow you to take a tax credit dollar for dollar of your travel expenses outside of 50 miles of wherever you live. So for example, let's say you book a hotel 50 miles away because, I don't know, you drive to Disneyland whenever it finally reopens, and you book a hotel down there and you spend $1,000 at Disneyland and at the hotel, say you wanted to go, you would actually get a tax credit for that $1,000 if this act passed. The Explore America tax credit would say if you spent $1,000, you'd only get 50% as a tax credit. Now, obviously, anytime you deal with taxes, it's always good to check with your CPA because everybody's tax situation is different. But this act is better. As much as we don't plan on traveling right now, it is even better than we had originally thought. But I guess even when a bad thing's better, it doesn't make it less bad. I don't know if that makes any sense. Anyway, the Wall Street Journal had a huge article today about a lot of fraud in the PPP, and so this might lead to more audits in the world of the PPP, especially the more the media reports on it. So heads up, keep your books tight if you took PPP money. Now, regarding the timing of the next stimulus check, remember that, yes, Congress is on recess between July 3rd and July 17th. However, always remember this. When Congress is not in session, it just means the senators are not at Capitol Hill. However, a lot of senators take this time to go do interviews, to negotiate deals, to meet with people, to meet with their constituents, to do their election campaigning, whatever. So expect a lot of news about the next rounds of stimulus, especially during that July 3rd to July 17th period. So that way, when they go back to Congress, hopefully we already have an idea as to what they're going to actually negotiate at Capitol Hill. Finally, expect a big update from the Federal Reserve on the bank stress tests at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time today. And this is basically when the Fed says how stable our banks are and whether or not we might actually see another financial crisis. Now, The Fed has already indicated that they might not reveal as much information as normal, which is kind of weird that they might be hiding. Well, maybe I shouldn't use the word hiding because that implies deceit, but they might not be disclosing as much about the banks as they usually do. And this is leading a lot of professors and economists to call for full disclosure. Again, those stress tests come out at 1:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time or 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and I'll be sure to report on those. So hopefully you enjoyed this update. Please consider subscribing to the channel, share it with somebody you care about, and folks, thank you so much. We'll see you next time. Get those 2 free stocks and your life insurance linked down below. Those links are really awesome. Life insurance, super easy to sign up for as well. At least get a quote, see how much it'll cost you. See you folks, thanks, bye.